Hi, and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and today on Literary Hype Podcast is a very special, fun guest who has really just blown up in the last year or so. Not that his books weren't getting a lot of attention online, but he did self-publish initially, and this year a traditional publisher has picked them up, put them out in hardcover, and it's gotten a lot of attention. And that author is Matt Dinniman. He is the author of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. There are many of these books. This year at San Diego Comic-Con, he was getting all sorts of attention, both on the book side and for the audiobook side, including an activation from Audible. So we did get to talk about that and so many more things that are going on in Matt Dinniman's world. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Matt Dinniman. Well, welcome to Literary Hype. It's so exciting to have you on to talk about, you have a lot of books to talk about.
I do have a lot of books. I mean, most of them are in the same series, but... Yes,
which are getting new life right now as they're getting published traditionally being put into bookstores. What is that like for you to see the series that you've spent so much time on in the past now getting this like huge resurgence of new fans?
It's pretty wild. I've been writing my whole life, and it wasn't until fairly recently that I was actually able to make money writing. My first book came out way back in 2003, but the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, the first one came out in 2020, and it wasn't until about 2023 where I met the fine folks over at Ace, who saw how well it was doing as a self-published book, and then they picked up the hardcover rights, or the physical book rights, and started putting them in stores, and ever since then, the popularity has just kind of taken off.
So I work at a bookstore, so I remember the first time someone came up and they're like, "Do you have Dungeon Crawler Carl?" And I was like, "I have not seen this yet." And they're like, "Oh my god, you better get on track because this is going to be huge." And it sure has. Like, obviously now we're here at San Diego Comic-Con where there's a lot of attention on your books. So what is it like for you to go from being indie pub to now having a whole activation for your book series?
It's pretty surreal, honestly. I'm kind of an introvert, and I'm always been pretty shy. I've taught myself over the years, because I used to go to conventions for a living. I sold art, and I taught myself, like, when I put the lanyard around my neck, I kind of, I'm into like Matt the author or Matt the artist mode. So, but even then it was just a few people at a time, and now it's like hundreds of people coming up and having me sign their books and going to events wearing cosplay or wearing like Dungeon Crawler Carl t-shirts. And it's, like I said, it's surreal. It doesn't feel real. It's amazing. I still don't even know how to react sometimes when people come up to me and say, "Hey, I read your book and I really like it."
The activation was so cool yesterday. Let's talk a little bit about walking into that room and seeing all these fans and like all the things that Audible had done to promote this book.
Oh, it's wild. You walk in, there's all the people working there have Dungeon Crawler Carl shirts. There's like a marquee that said "Welcome Crawlers." There's video games and a bunch of, just little swag items like pins. Like they had this box.
That one was the first to sell out.
It's so amazing to see how much support I'm getting from everyone, from Audible to Ace over at Penguin Random House to Webtoon, our new comic. Everybody is so excited. There's a train going, like a trolley that is wrapped with the Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I still haven't seen it, but I've seen 100 pictures of it, and it's flabbergasting.
You are kind of at the forefront of the LitRPG genre as it's booming.
Uh-huh.
So what's it like for you to see this area that you've been dabbling in really start to pop off?
It makes me so happy. LitRPG, the whole genre, I don't even like calling it a genre because it's not really a genre, but that's another conversation.
It's like a sub-genre?
Yeah. Has been such a small kind of insular community. People kind of think it's like this hidden gem. Like, I find it, and I'm so excited to read again because I hadn't read anything in so long. That's a lot of people say to me. And there's so many amazing books that don't really get the attention they need. Like He Who Fights with Monsters, Beware of Chicken, Heretical Fishing. We can just go on and on and on and on. And to see it start leaking out the edges, and people in groups other than the LitRPG groups talking about some of these books makes me really happy, and I'm happy to recommend that style of writing to anybody who will listen because it's so fun.
So for anybody who hasn't heard of LitRPG or Dungeon Crawler Carl or anything like that, tell them what the genre is like and why they should try to give it a try. Okay,
well, Dungeon Crawler Carl is a book about a guy and his ex-girlfriend's cat stuck on an alien game show. That's the basic premise of Dungeon Crawler Carl. What makes it a LitRPG is while he's on the game show, he has kind of a video game-like rules controlling his actions. In other words, he has a stats screen. He can see what his strength number is. He can see what his intelligence level is, his constitution, and he has spells, and he has a menu he can pop up and see it. And he starts off at level 1, and he gets stronger as the game goes on, and eventually he becomes level 50, then level 60, and level 70, and that allows him to be stronger and defeat stronger monsters. And that's what a LitRPG is. It's a genre of fiction, again I say genre, where video game or tabletop role-playing rules are baked into the narrative of the book. And usually the main characters are aware that they are level 1. They're aware that the monster they're fighting is a level 10, so they have to get stronger. And it's like playing a video game. A lot of people think they're like the choose your own adventure style books, but they're not. They're just regular books, regular novels, but with those stats thrown in. And there's different kinds. There's really, really crunchy ones where there's pages and pages and pages of stat sheets, and they go really into the minutia of every little piece of armor the person has. And there's people who love that sort of stuff. And then there's other books like mine and books like The Wandering Inn, for example, where it's really light. There's a really light touch to the stats, and people love those as well.
So you've touched on the it's not really a genre thing twice now. So now I'm curious. Let's go.
Okay. I feel personally that LitRPG is not a genre. It's a style of writing. The example I like to use is epistolatory, like a novel that's written like a letter. Epistolatory isn't a genre. It's just a style. And the vast majority, 95% of all LitRPG novels are fantasy just because it kind of lends itself to it, like strength and magic missile and stuff. But we have examples of westerns, romance novels, lots of sci-fi novels, mysteries that are also LitRPG. They just have the video game rules controlling the world. So I think it's a misnomer to call it a genre. Everyone does. I still do it sometimes too because it makes it easier. But I strongly feel that it's not. The first time someone said that to me, it was there's an author, and his name's Eric Huglin. He writes The Good Guys and the Bad Guys and the Grim Guys series. And he said to me, it's not a genre, it's a style. And I was like, you're wrong, Eric. And then I started thinking about it, and he's right. So now I say it too.
I mean, at least you can admit when you're wrong and change course.
I try.
There are a lot of people who can't do that, so props to you on that.
Thank you.
One of the first things that I heard about with this book was Princess Donut of Princess Donut Supremacy. You must read this book for this cat.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about crafting Princess Donut as a character and her journey through these books.
So Princess Donut is one of the main characters in Dungeon Crawler Carl. She starts the book as Carl's ex-girlfriend's cat. She's just a regular cat. Well, she's not a regular cat, but she's like a cat like we know a cat. But she's a show cat. She was a tortoiseshell Persian cat. Her title is GC BWRNW, Princess Donut the Queen Anne Chonk. And if you're familiar with the cat show world, all those letters mean something. Like BW stands for breed winner. Before I wrote books full time, I was an artist. I mean, I still am an artist, but that's what I did for a living. And a lot of that was going to cat shows and dog shows and setting up an Artist Alley style booth where I would sell art of various animal breeds, and I would go to cat shows a lot. And one time I was at a CFA event, which is the Cat Fanciers Association, and there was cages all throughout the show floor, and they had different cats in all of them, and I was right next to the edge where the Persian cats were, and there was this tiny little Persian kitten just glaring at me all weekend long, and she just looked like she wanted to rip my face off. And
as cats do.
Yeah, as cats do. And I said, I'm going to write a book with that cat in it. And I know that world pretty well. I never showed cats myself. I never showed dogs or anything like that. But I know those people, and I thought it'd be kind of an interesting just entrance way into a story. So I put the cat into the book, and I never expected her to become the character she was when I first started writing, because once she enters the game shows, she's treated as a contestant, just like Carl is, and she's eventually given sapience. She gets the ability to speak, and she suddenly has memory of all her time when she was just a regular cat, but she's still very much a cat, and I tried to keep her like the cat attitude with the character as well.
And Jeff does such a great job of narrating for her in the audiobook. His vocal range is so fantastic. What's it like for you to get to hear these audiobooks for the first time each time?
I mean, I knew Jeff was going to do a good job because I knew Jeff from before, but Jeff Hayes is an amazing audiobook narrator. He's the man of 1,000 voices. Still to this day, I get people yelling at me for not crediting the female narrator in Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's all Jeff all the way down. You can go on YouTube right now and watch video of him like switching like that from voices. We had a panel yesterday where he did a cold read. He had not read this scene before, and we had him read it was about 10 minutes, and I deliberately put in like 6-7 different voices in that one cold read, and he switches through them seamlessly. It's amazing to watch him work.
You touched on the webtoon and that you're an artist, so talk a little bit about the shifting from the novels into the webtoon universe for this story.
Okay, so the webtoon just started. We have, I think it's like 9 episodes are available now. 5 of them are free. The way webtoons works, or 4 of them are free. The way webtoons works is all the episodes eventually are free, but the most recent episodes are you have to buy them with coins. But I signed with Athon Books, and their art studio is called Laurel Pursuit. And about a year ago, they started working on what just got released, which is the Dungeon Crawler Carl webtoon. And if you're not familiar with webtoon, it's a vertical scrolling comic, and it's very, very popular, especially amongst like a younger population. And they are doing a fantastic job. It's very close to the book. They're keeping it really close to the story, which I know a lot of people were worried about, and I'm a fan of it, so I think it's pretty neat.
What's the scene that you're most excited to see translated into art?
From the first book, there's a scene where Carl and Donut save a bunch of babies from a meth war. I can't wait to see that scene.
Ooh, so you haven't even seen it yet?
No, I haven't. I have seen a lot of it. I've seen the storyboards, but I haven't seen the color version. I am involved in proofing some of it, and I do have some say, but I'm kind of letting them do their own thing because the writers on it are doing a fantastic job. They understand the story really well.
Is there any anxiety or stress that comes from letting your baby go into someone else's hands in that form?
Absolutely. It's always weird seeing other people adapt what you've written and seeing how they interpret it. I see it every day because there's lots of fan art out there as well. And every time I see something new and it's not exactly what I pictured, I always like to think about it, well, why did they picture it like that? And is it because I wrote it in a certain way, or they're wrong, or what? And it's usually because that's just how they interpreted it, and I love seeing that.
That goes along with the screen adaptation that was recently announced. How are you feeling about that process?
The television adaptation, there's not so much I can talk about, unfortunately, but I'm very confident. If it moves forward, it'll be done well. Chris Yost, who's heading that effort, is a big fan. He's on my Patreon. He's the type of guy that messages me late at night asking, well, I really like this scene. He's completely caught up with the series. He understands it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
That's always the scary part for readers of when it starts going into adaptations and will they do it justice, but also will it happen at all?
Right. And I mean, honestly, anything Hollywood, you never know what's going to happen until it happens. So we'll see. I'm, cautiously optimistic. But the truth is, I've had a dozen friends who've gone through this exact same process that very, very few will actually cross the finish line. So we'll see what happens.
It's always very nerve-wracking. Several of my other author friends who had theirs all through that clock.
It goes fast.
It's like slow, and then really fast.
On top of the art, you're also a bassist in a band.
Yeah.
How do music and drawing help in your creative process as a writer?
That's a pretty interesting question. I've been doing all three of those my whole life. Drawing, I'm not that great at. I never have been, but I found pretty early on that I could make money doing it. I was Etsy's #1 seller for a very long time. I had a shop called Collageorama. I designed, like I mentioned earlier, I designed cats and dogs, and I sold art prints online. To this day, I keep finding people who've purchased my art. They like literally have it on their wall in their house, and they had no idea I was the one who made it. But as a musician, I've also been a musician my whole life. When I was a kid, I had dreams of being a rock star. Two things. I had dreams of being a rock star and being a writer. And I never anticipated that writing would be the thing that I was actually probably the most talented at. I kind of suck as a bass player, even though I try really hard. I am in a heavy metal band. We have a lot of fun. We're a bar band. We just play at bars all over the Tacoma and Seattle and Olympia area quite a bit, and we have lots of shows where a few people show up and we just play our hearts out with very loud heavy metal, and that's fun too. But the truth is, writing has always been my true passion, and I draw inspiration almost the other way around. Like the creativity that I try to cultivate as a writer kind of bleeds into music more so than I think music bleeds into writing. I have a new book that's coming out in February. It's called Operation Bounce House, and it's a sci-fi novel about gamers from Earth coming to basically annihilate a colony on a distant planet. And one of the main characters, or the main character of that book, is in a band too. He's a drummer, and so I pulled a lot of knowledge of life as a kind of a bar band into that book, and I'm looking forward to people reading my perspective on drummers. So,
if you could pick the theme song for Dungeon Crawler Carl, what song would you want it to be?
Oh man, that's a hard question. I wish I could answer. There's Everybody Dies by Arian. There's a good song that you probably don't know what that is.
Nope.
Thunderstruck by AC/DC is a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That was the one that I would have thought of probably.
Yeah.
AC/DC vibes seem to fit with Dungeon Crawler Carl.
I'm a big fan.
So with the transition from these books from being indie pub to traditionally published, you did retain your rights for the ebooks and the audiobooks. So talk a little bit about that process and how business smart that is. It's genius.
It was genius. My editor's sitting over there glowering. No, so I have a very unusual book to shelf situation, I think, whereas I had self-published them already, and I had already sold the audiobook rights to Sound Booth Theater, who in turn we together ended up selling the rights to Audible Studios, even though Sound Booth Theater is still the ones producing the audiobooks. So those rights weren't on the table to begin with, but I still retained the ebook rights, and I was fortunate enough to find an editor who was willing to take a chance on just the print rights, because we did talk to a lot of publishers and editors, and they all wanted the ebook rights, and the fact was I wasn't going to sell. I was fortunate enough that I was earning enough money as just an ebook author that I didn't really need to sell them, and I kind of hope that more and more indie authors can, work out mutually beneficial deals that are similar, because I honestly feel as if that's the best way to go for someone who's already found success as an independent author. Because we still, as indie authors, we still don't have any bookstore penetration. If we're in a bookstore, it's because we had to go to that bookstore and specifically ask. And you can't do that. Someone like Penguin Random House has a massive system where they print the books and they have their sales folks, and the booksellers have the confidence in a book that has the PRH title. They know it'll be a good book, and when you have the best of both worlds, it works out for everyone's benefit.
One of the team members of the PRH team was talking to me about the next one in the series, and how they have when you take off the dust jacket, there's something on them. And she's like, the next one is unhinged.
It is unhinged.
What can you tell us about it?
I can't tell you anything about it, but I would never have gotten away with it on the first book. There's so many things I wanted on the earlier books that we just, we couldn't do because we didn't know how people would react. There's a Goddammit Donut, which I think is pretty simple. There's Samantha is a character in the book. She has a line, "I will kill your mother." That won't fly. But for book 6, we kind of sneaked one past the goalie, and we got "I need a baby seal," and that's it doesn't mean anything if you haven't read the book, but it's funny if you have read the book. So, and the next one it's not really something that you could really get away with, I think, without having proven track record that the fans like that stuff. They think it's funny. I think it's funny.
Is there anything unhinged that you wrote that had to come out?
No.
Oh, okay. So all the unhinged craziness is still there.
No, well, that's actually not true. I mean, the way I write is, and I always say don't do this because it's a terrible way to write because it takes forever. I write scenes over and over again when I write them, and then I'll think of like the craziest, most unhinged thing with the anticipation that I'm not actually going to do this. I just want to see how it goes. And then I usually take it out and take a step back. But sometimes I'll keep it in and say, okay, let's see what happens next. What people call a pantser, I don't plot my books at all. I don't use an outline. I just kind of make it up as I go along. And sometimes I'll write a scene deeper into the book first, and I have to get from point A to point B, and I have no clue how I'm going to get there. So I have to come up with something crazy and unhinged to get to that point. And it's important for me to not make it seem like a little too pat or like a deus ex machina, sort of thing. So I have to make it as crazy as possible and still have it make sense and have people think, well, that's the only way it could have possibly gone.
What's interesting is when you're doing this series that is they just keep getting bigger and bigger. Like next thing you know, it's going to be as big as our head, these books.
Yeah.
They're ginormous. How do you approach figuring out where you want the next one to go when it's such a long vision?
Yeah, so first off, the book 7, which is about to come out in hardcover, is the longest one, and I anticipate that's going to be the longest one.
Okay, so we'll go back down.
Book 8 is definitely going to be shorter. The Penguin folks are like, Matt, we need to hire extra truck drivers to get this book to the bookstore. They're a little thick, so
you can only fit 4 copies in a case.
And the truth is, the booksellers don't like the books that big. It costs more money to print them. We have to charge more, and I don't like that either. And I don't want them splitting the books up into volumes. So we do want to make them shorter. But I also promised my readers very early on that I wasn't gonna split a floor. Like in Carl, there's 18 floors, and sometimes we'll do more than one floor in a book, but I've never had them floor 9, for example, is what book 7 is. I wouldn't want floor 7 or floor 9 to encompass 2 different novels. So that's kind of why the most recent book is pretty long. But we're working on being more concise with my words.
Do you have any thoughts of how many books will end up being in the series?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be 10. I don't know for positive sake. I suspect if anything it'll be shorter rather than longer, but I'm pretty sure we're going to land on 10. We're past the center point, and I can kind of see where the arrow is going to land. So 10 is my guess.
That's awesome. Since this is Literary Hype, the last question we always ask, what books are you hyped about right now?
Oh man, so I'm always reading lots of things at once. I just finished The Tainted Cup, and it was the best book I've read in the past few years. I'm reading The Will of the Many right now. That's a really good book. Another book I recently finished reading was Jade City by Fonda Lee. I just loved that book as well. The Guy Gavriel Kay has a new book out. I still haven't read. I'm excited about that. There's lots of horror novels. They're on the way. Philip Frykowski has a new one coming out, The Autumn Springs Retirement Massacre, something. And I got an arc of that, and I'm about to start reading that next. So awesome. I could just go on and on with books.
As we do at Literary Hype, just all day books. Thanks so much for hanging out with Literary Hype at San Diego Comic-Con.
It's been a blast.
Thanks again to Matt for hanging out with me during his very, very busy schedule at San Diego Comic-Con. He was on multiple panels, he was doing the activation, he was all over the place because everyone is talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you want to check out this series for yourself, the links to do so are in the description for you, as well as where to find Matt on social media. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to click that like button, subscribe to the Literary Hype YouTube channel if you've not done so already, and share this with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.